All right, man. How are you doing tonight?
I am doing all right. I can't complain, man.
Nobody
Doing
listens
pretty
anyway,
pretty
do
damn good.
they?
No, they don't. No one cares. But yeah, episode 71.
You know, it
That was
comes
the
right
update
after
log.
episode 70, right? You know that.
It does. I'm pretty sure. At least my
69's
math
right
is
before
correct.
that.
Uh, uh, best number.
You just always seem so amazed every time. It's like, oh,
I
episode
look, man. I'm just
71.
I'm just surprised it's still going. um, no, no. I'm not surprised we're still going. I'm just surprised we've done this much. Because sometimes at once it feels like we haven't been doing this that long,
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time it feels like we've been doing it longer.
Yeah, I can get that. I can understand that.
So it's like, uh, but yeah, episode 71, guys. I am Rob, and this is your host, and this is Greg, my co-host, and this is episode 71 of the update log. And we're going to talk about a couple of things tonight, but primarily storytelling and its importance or lack thereof, depending on who you want to ask, on not just the gaming industry, video games or TTRPGs, but just every industry. Um, Storytelling and world building, character building are, I mean, when you think about it, really, they're the hallmarks of what makes any piece of entertainment worth a damn. You know,
Telling
I
good
mean,
story.
you could even, yeah, telling us. I mean, you could even point to sports, and you wouldn't think there'd be a story behind, like, a basketball game or whatever. But when you dig deeper, you can find one. Rivalries between certain teams or certain players. That's a story in and of itself. You know, put Michael Jordan and LeBron James in the same court. Trust me, there's a story. Actually, fun fact. I don't know if this is recent. I think it might be recent. But LeBron James, his son, just got drafted to
Thank you,
the Lakers.
Foxy.
Yes, thank you for thank you for following us. Well,
Hey,
so
and she deserves a
a
shout out.
little, yeah, a little side piece of storytelling there. Um, but that said, why is that? I don't even know why that's there. Ugh.
There we go. Hey, I remembered how to do that.
your Twitch foo, your Twitch skills are declining, Greg.
Twitch foo. Yes, that's what it is. Twitch
Yeah.
foo. You are
Um.
very welcome, ma'am. If you have not checked out Foxy, please do. She's an awesome streamer. Mainly
Yeah. Yep.
games, but I know she does some RPGs once in a while too.
Yeah. She's playing D&D right now, apparently. Which I'm kind of interested now since we're talking about storytelling. I wonder what story she's crafting over there. But yeah, storytelling. I guess my question to the audience is this.
Every Tuesday. Awesome.
Okay, every Tuesday D&D. All right.
I,
I'll be
I
sure to
can't
check that out.
say anything because every time I do, I throw him way off track. He's like got the
You
thought
do.
in his mind, then I talk, and it's like
And yeah, it flies away.
shiny.
Um, yeah, pretty much. That's what happens when you have ADHD, man. Uh, but yeah, my question to the audience is
Thank
what
you.
what stories have stuck out to you? Well, obviously, primarily in the gaming space. Whether it be a video game or an TTRPG table that you sat at, um, or maybe one you crafted yourself. What story really stuck with you and why?
What's
And I was gonna say I'll start with myself.
okay? All right. I'm
Yeah,
very
I'll start with
curious to
myself.
hear this.
I will start with myself. And for me, the first big story, and this we're not going to talk. Well, I mean, we could talk about books in a minute,
So yeah,
but
welcome in,
game
buddy.
game related, game related, uh, was actually Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time.
Oh,
That was the first one that really stuck with me that I can remember playing and just really enjoying that whole story. Because I mean, it was the classic hero's journey. It was very classic hero's journey story. Got to save the princess, and then unlike Peach, thankfully, Princess Zelda doesn't always get herself kidnapped. Well, almost always doesn't get herself kidnapped. Not nearly as much as Peach does.
I think Legend of Zelda though was like one of the first games that had a like real coherent story. I mean, there's a lot of games back
It
then
was.
that had story, but it's Legend of Zelda was pretty. You know what I mean? You just understood what you're out to save the princess.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, you out save the princess. I mean, obviously, the overarching story. We'll say Mario Brothers was
Would
they're
you
kind of the same
kindly?
thing, but it got a really lost in
Hmm.
translation because you weren't like you were just it was a platformer. So as a kid, you didn't really care about the story because you were busy, playing the game. Like the story and the gameplay, they weren't divorced in Mario Brothers. They weren't divorced. Obviously, we're there. Going back and playing it as an adult, you realize, okay, this is what's going on. I'm playing through these levels because this is the journey to get to Bowser. But yeah, with regards to Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, that was for me because I was a kid, was the first coherent story that I could pick up. And at that time, I believe when did Legend of Zelda come out? Let me look that.
we we
Legend of
have the master
Zelda.
game player in our audience right now. He like caught "Would you kindly" immediately. Insomnia of
That
the
came
night.
out, yeah, in '98. So yeah, I was 10 years old at that time. So I'm still a kid.
You got it though, man. Your
Okay, so,
mind's like a steel trap when it
yeah,
comes to these games. I love it.
it is. BioShock was a good game, video game related one. Frizz, would you kindly? Yeah, yeah. BioShock, really good game. They've remastered it. I think they've remastered it again. Um, but I have it. I've played all of them. I have to say the first is definitely my favorite. They've also recently,
Saber battle.
before I start addressing the chat, um, Silent Hill 2 has been remastered. That's another series. If you've never played Silent Hill, I recommend it if you're into the psychological horror and the unnerving. Highly recommend it. But we've got some folks who've responded in chat. Well, first of all, yeah,
Ogre
as
battle
Raz
was
said,
epic.
welcome in,
Yes, it was. Silent Hill is very
welcome
good.
in. Bioshock. All right, so Harper Ring says, for me, it was actually the whole story between their character Armani and the death of their mentor Silver Spine.
He's
Okay,
going deep, deep.
yeah,
That's yeah.
so
Go for it.
yeah, so for context, and obviously Harper can elaborate on this. Myself, Raz, and Harper were part of this online community in ESO, and the character that they're talking about is one of the characters they played in that community. I recognize the Silver Spine character as well, and then they says Cyberpunk with the death of Jackie. I think we could all agree the death of Jackie Wells was kind of that hit hard. I ain't gonna lie. That kind of I wasn't bawling or nothing, but it made me tear up a little bit. I was like, damn, they acted out that one very well. Plus, they took Jackie too soon. Just my opinion. So Foxy says Bioshock is a core memory in my house. Adored the first game, and my family did a group cosplay of Bioshock at a small Comic Con. Ooh, that is actually pretty cool. Okay, so you guys did a small cosplay. Who were you?
Yes. Who were you?
Hmm.
By the way, Foxy's going to come play at my table at GaryCon 2025.
Very nice. Okay, you're a big sister. All right, I figured as much. I figured you were probably one of those characters. Um, all right, so let's see. So Ogre Battle 64. I never played that. At least not that I can remember. So again, the part of the question is what grabbed you about that game?
Oh,
Like
cool.
why is it stuck? My daughter was little sister's son was a splicer and X was Big Daddy. Okay, so you had the whole crew. All right, I like it. I respect it. I respect it. So yeah, so let's go to Insomnia Night. So what about Ogre Battle 64 kind of stuck with you? Yep, Raz is definitely a
So,
great DM. We
so,
can
so what?
is
Go and please do type that out. In the meantime, I'm going to throw another game out there because I've played all those games, but I think the one that really kicked me off was Fallout, the original Fallout game.
that's right, yeah. Original Fallout game. Okay, so Insomnia Night says I was a wee lad then. Foxy, I'm assuming Foxy is referencing the Bioshock game. The turnaround and the betrayal. Yeah, I did like that because I ended up playing Bioshock. I think I was a teenager. I wasn't a kid, so I was a teenager, so I could kind of understand and get into the storytelling piece of that. Um, that
And
stuck to you. Okay.
way back in high school on the old um, Apple IIe's, because graphics weren't video games were basically Atari level at that point. I used to play a game called Ozark
Yeah.
Trail, and that was a story based game. It was pretty cool. I probably wouldn't think
All
that
right.
now, but then I did.
So
Thought it
you,
was really cool.
so you said Ozark Trail. You know what
Yep.
that reminds me of? I'm pretty sure it has nothing to do. They don't have anything to do with each other. Oregon Trail. I
Yeah.
know. I know we've
Yeah.
all played that game.
Yep.
That was another one that really stuck out to me as a kid because it was obviously I played it while I was in school. Computer class or whatnot. I think every going back and playing that or watching folks play that as an adult, you don't realize how fucking dark that game was. Oregon Trail, just
Yeah.
simple like dying of dysentery
that
and starvation and
that game
how
actually
was that a
is
kid's game?
it. That was the first thing that inspired me to start coding.
Yeah.
Was that game? Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Legend of Dragoon. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I
Yeah.
played that game. I played that game. I played Final Fantasy Tactics. That was another one.
Mm-hmm.
That was again that I played a little bit, a couple years after, you know, I played Legend of Zelda. And the reason why Tactics stood out was the storytelling. The storytelling was episodic. It was good. You got to Ramza and all the other characters that you got, like Delita and all of them. Like you got to really learn about them and actually give a shit about them. Like when you got to the end of Act One. Hey, what's up, Infinity
Welcome,
Core?
Infinity.
Yeah, when you
Morty
got to the
Simba.
end
Hey,
of
welcome in, buddy.
hey, what's up? What's up? Well, yeah, when you got to the end of Act One, Insomnia Night, and you attack the fort, and then from what I'm trying to remember, yeah, I think you're going to
Dark
save like
Troopers.
the a princess or something, and they oh no, you're going to stop some insurgents, and they blow up the fort, and what's his face? You think Delita dies, and years go by. Ramza, he leaves the night, the cadet night program, and Evilise becomes a whole, mercenary with what was that guy's name? The Dark Knight. I think it was like it wasn't Gilfanon. Started with a
I
G. I
just
can't
I
remember the
just let
guy's
him
name.
go when he gets on a roll like this.
I'm just look, it's a good game. It's a good game. Go play the fucking game, all right? Go play the game. It's a really good game.
You're good,
One
man.
of my I played it when until the disc broke. I ain't gonna lie. I played it until the disc like when I think maybe I played it too much. That and Legends Dragoon was really fun. But anyway, enough of my fucking rambling. So yeah, Greg, what about you, man? What about you?
I
Fallout.
just
You said what grabbed you? What was it about that game that
Fallout,
really
it,
grabbed you?
probably
Really
because it was, it was turn based, obviously, but it told a story all the way through, and it also expressed, it was kind of edgy, and that's,
it
I
was.
like a little edge. So yeah, that was one of the things, like with Legend of Zelda, the early Legend of Zelda and Saving the Princess. I mean, that was all pretty straightforward, and
Mm.
you didn't have fast travel. That was definitely a unique invention when they created the fast travel thing, because if you died, you basically are running back through all those levels.
Yep. Lord Jesus Christ, welcome in, buddy.
But yeah, Fallout was really, it was edgy, and that's, I like to have a little edge, man. I don't know what to tell you. Cyberpunk, Alien. I gotta have a little edge to it.
Okay. You do. So you like the darker themes, the kind of
I do. I do.
the okay. Well, now we understand why he likes Cyberpunk.
Well, I like the fantasy. I like the fantasy games too. I mean,
Mm.
Skyrim and really moving into Skyrim. I played and played and played. I think I found everything you can find on there. Um, and like ESO, moving into some of the more modern games, Cyberpunk 2077. I like to have a little edge in my game. Way it's
Mm.
not just all.
Sunshine and rainbows. No, I
Yeah,
get you.
yeah.
I get you.
And I think it's
Um,
important to have those memorable moments. That's the like the Jackie Wells story. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That's important to have those
Uh,
memorable moments. Like for me, playing a character, like in a live game, playing a character, I don't I don't care if you love or hate me, but I want you to do one of those things.
Yes. Yeah. There's got to be some emotional connection there. Again,
Right.
love, hate. The worst you can get is indifference. I mean that's real life as well
Right.
for any game.
Blah.
So
Don't
yes,
care.
yeah, it's like I just don't care. It's like, oh, okay,
Icewind
shit.
Dale,
Fuck
Baldur's
me
Gate
then.
One, Baldur's Gate
Yeah,
One.
Elder Scrolls. Yeah,
I
Baldur's Gate
I
1.
really liked that
Planescape
game.
Torment. Planescape Torment. That was another one for me that really stuck out. Um,
Morrowind, yeah.
Morrowind, Neverwinter Nights 2. Yeah, really good
Planescape.
story. Yeah. Well, that's
You're
the
you're
thing.
you're
That
like
like
rattling
actually
off my childhood here, Insomnia Night.
Planescape Torment was that was the first exposure that I had to anything second edition related. For those of you who don't know, Planescape was one of the settings for second edition D&D, with the City of Doors, who I've learned the proper
Yes.
pronunciation is not sigil, sigil. I always thought it was sigil, but no, it's sigil. Who the fuck, uh, whoever pronounced it that way, hey man, it's weird. Okay, it's weird.
Yeah,
Just
I
saying.
played Baldur's Gate 1, and that actually was right before I got into my first MMO, which was the Final Fantasy MMO. Um and yeah, that it was all downhill after that.
Okay.
But let's talk a little bit about Dungeons and Dragons, because
Yeah.
that was the, yeah, the role playing games, electronic video games were a big piece for me. But
hmm Especially nowadays. Especially nowadays, I think a lot of folks, they're getting into gaming in general through the console or PC media, meaning it's more video games TTRPGs. Although, for those of you who are, old, um, you understand, you guys understand that what really brought.
I feel like you're throwing shade there.
No, 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 I'm not. I promise. Without you guys, we wouldn't have what we have. Exactly, yeah, Insomnia Night. They're getting into it due to Critical Role, which, by the way, season 3 of Vox Machina, which is one of it's part of their first campaign of Critical Role, is already out on Amazon Prime. Check it out; it's actually pretty good. I'm enjoying it. I've watched the first couple episodes. Um, Pretty solid. Um, so do give that a look. But yeah, D&D and similar TTRPGs are the reason why we have what we have. But we're actually going to go back a little bit further, and the reason why we have D&D and we had games like Chainmail and stuff like that were two parts. Number one, we have Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, Robert E. Howard to thank for that. Most notably, Tolkien. Tolkien was the first person, or one of the first people in modern history to really put together not just a cohesive story and an in-depth and very, very deep, and I'd say he was deep and wide story. But one of the things that people may not really realize is his level of world building was absolutely phenomenal.
Tremendous. Yeah.
Um,
I
like
gotta, I gotta,
he go ahead.
I want to add a little comment in here really quickly. Foxy is talking about the opening scenes of ET and
Oh
the
yeah,
the series Stranger Things. Actually, the first time I started watching that, it reminded me of
but
that
you have that
opening
first
scene
scene of
of
ET.
ET. Yeah, because it had the same vibe to
Same.
it. Just no
Yep, same,
little
same.
alien dude, but yeah.
Nope. Yeah, like, and I would wager a bet that the screenplay writers in like the writing room probably took some inspiration from ET and that scene. I wouldn't be
good,
surprised
good movie to take inspiration
because
from.
yeah, I mean ET was an iconic '80s movie. It was I mean one of them. There
Hmm.
were a couple, but in that regard, ET was definitely one of the iconic '80s films. But going back to Tolkien, yeah, Stranger Things is set around the same time. Yeah, exact. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's an '80s nostalgia hit. Which, by the way, I do have to actually finish Stranger Things. I haven't finished it yet, so shame on me. But yeah, Tolkien was the inspiration, at least in my book, for our modern gaming scene. Both from a tabletop perspective and a video game perspective, because he was the his kind of architecture for world building was the inspiration for D&D and games like Chainmail and the first iteration of D&D. And I would even go so far as to say, for those of you who may have played them, MUDs. And for those of you who don't know that, multi-user dungeon. That's what a MUD is. It's basically a text-based um, D&D-esque game that you can play on your computer before graphical user interfaces came out, stuff like that. That's what we had, and I played MUDs. Obviously, they're way before my time, but one of the first things was a MUD. That was one of the first things that I played as a kid in terms of like role playing games,
That was the
like
thing.
really role playing.
That was
Yeah.
the thing when the internet first started getting, dial-up internet first started really getting usage, and sysops using home
Hmm.
servers and developing MUDs so you could connect to their system from yours and play their homebrew video game basically. It's cool stuff.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly what Lord Jesus says. Yeah. They were the online extension of your text based. Yeah. Red Dragon in on wow AOL. Is AOL even still around?
I think it is.
Does
I don't
AOL
know.
still exist?
Haven't even haven't used that in a very
Yeah,
long time.
I'm pretty sure I still have an AOL account. If it's still alive, my AOL account is still alive.
Yeah,
Shit.
Yahoo's still around, so I mean,
I mean, yeah, Yahoo's never gonna die. It's yeah. But yeah, and I'm too young to feel this old. uh, Imagine spamming. Oh yeah, imagine the spam in that email. Oof. Probably in the tens of thousands. Jesus. Oh man, you've got mail.
yeah, that's one of those accounts you should use just for spam.
Hmm.
Every time you have to put an email address in, you just put that in there. Like, yep, you can send me anything you want because I'm never checking it
Yeah,
anyway.
pretty much. I'm never gonna check that shit anyway. But yeah, so going back to D&D, and kind of that whole impetus.
So, what was the first D&D game you ever played? How about that? How about we start there? We'll go all the way back, far as you can go.
Oh my god. Okay. First D&D game. I was actually gonna start with something else, but the first D&D game I ever played was 3.5. 3.5 had just come out. It was 2000,
I feel bad for you already.
2003. Is it then that's yeah, it was 2003. That's the not fifth edition. 3.5 had just came out. My science teacher, a gentleman by the name of Christopher Corsi. If you're listening, if you ever watch this, Mr. Corsi, you're awesome. Thank you. He was a fantastic science teacher. Just cool, down to earth dude. But he hosted it was like a maybe six session like mini campaign, and I got to play. It was my first time playing a character. I made a rogue, made an elven rogue. And I think the reason why I made an elven rogue because around that same time, Lord of the Rings had come out. The Fellowship, it's either the Fellowship or the Two Towers had just finished playing.
The first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, right, Infinity? Yeah, I'm betting that's the one he's talking about.
Hmm. Well, Infinity Core, yes, I am. I mean, we've established I'm younger than you and Greg, but I have played every edition of D&D except for the first edition. I played second, I've played third, 3.5, the one we won't talk about in fifth edition.
That's the weirdness to it is, we've played so many like Cyberpunk and Alien and Pirate Borg and The Witcher and whatnot on stream, but we actually play way more Dungeons and Dragons than we do any of those games.
Yes, yeah, yeah, we do. Um, so yeah, well, all right. So Infinity Core says his first was Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I'm assuming that was your first one as well, Greg. Was
No,
Advanced D&D? No,
no,
that's right. You played the brown box.
you bet. I got the really
You
cheap
play
looking set of dice and the whole deal.
yeah, yeah. All right. So Unholy Pawn says the Menser red box. Okay. Elf was a class.
Elf,
Really?
dwarf, human. Well, yeah, I think it was
Huh.
actually in the early when it first came out. Elf, I might have been. You only had three or four classes and four races, dwarf and
Huh.
halfling. Yeah,
Well, yeah. No, they had like thief. They had thief, warrior, mage, and I think cleric. I
yep,
think those are the four original classes.
yep.
And then yeah, it was human, elf, dwarf, and halfling. Where yeah, I think you're right. And then I think it was in like the next iteration they came out with like the advanced classes. I think like Paladin and something like that. So Lord Jesus Crust says, first D&D game I ever played was actually a Pathfinder game, if that counts, since it's basically just 3.5 heavily modified. Yeah, I'd say it counts. I'd say it's close enough. you really wanted to play, since I watched an actual play of the adventure called Skulls and Shackles. I was so enamored that I needed to play. Got some random on Skype to let me join and only played one session. The first thing I ever did was climb a building, hit a crit with my Elven Archer Ranger, and instantly killed an enemy. Been hooked ever since. I mean, yeah, getting that crit, man, that shot of dopamine. Oof. I bet you were like, yep, I want to do that again. Oh man.
So how about if we
You
jump all the way ahead to 2024?
up? Yeah, I was actually was my next port of call. We're going to be jumping around a little bit during this conversation, guys. This is more of our just a sit down conversation about storytelling and its importance to us
I
as
agree with you,
human
man.
beings. Yeah, Unholy Pawn. Well, look, Unholy Pawn. I agree with you to a degree, but you can't deny there are some things that they've come out with the 2024 edition that, at the very least, are worth a look. And one of them that comes to mind for me personally are the weapon mastery system. It's actually pretty cool. I'm gonna lie, that's pretty nice. It's a pretty nice feature that they've come out with. I think they have, and in part they have to thank for that, in my opinion, is Larian Studios and Baldur's Gate 3, because obviously, hopefully, most of the people watching or listening have played Baldur's Gate 3 at this point. If you haven't, what are you doing? Go take some time off of work tomorrow and go play. call call in sick. Go play some Baldur's Gate 3. It's a fantastic
Yeah,
game.
just tell your boss Rob said you had
Yeah, just if anything, blame me.
to.
um, take off Friday and play. See, Foxy Project's got a good idea. That's right. That's right. Take off Friday and play all weekend. There you go. But the weapon mastery system is one of the things that I'm really looking forward to stealing from the 2024 edition. Another thing, though, to touch on is the DMG, or the Dungeon Master's Guide, which is coming out next month, the 12th, so November 12th. 2024 edition of the DMG is coming out, and there've been a couple of sneak peeks that have been released. One of the most notable ones that I want to touch on is readability and the usage, like user experience. There we go. Because if you've ever read a DMG, I've read a couple. They're, how do I put this? They're not great at really outlining what you need to know as a dungeon master. It's a flood of information, and for anybody who's taking up a DM spot for the first time, it's a bit overwhelming. Which, ironically speaking, for something called the Dungeon Master's Guide, you'd think it would be the exact opposite. I think it would be a little bit more digestible. Seems they've been listening, and apparently they are going to be reorganizing and cleaning up the 2024 edition of the DMG for us. So that's one of the good things. I don't know. What about you, Greg? What are you excited for about the new DMG coming out?
Absolutely nothing.
Come on, man.
You have to
Yeah,
ask better questions, man. Otherwise, you're going to get that deadpan, honest answer of,
yeah. You gotta give me something. You gotta be excited about something.
I am excited about being able to continue playing 5e.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
I
So
really
so here's
nothing
here's another
nothing
thing.
in there. I mean, I was interested in the crafting piece. Took a look at that. Yeah, yeah.
What
It's
about the return of Greyhawk?
well. Here's the thing with that. Okay, so okay, yes, but at the same point in time, I'm a little more attached to Greyhawk, like the original
OG
Greyhawk.
Greyhawk. Okay.
Um, I like the idea that it's I don't know. I don't know whether I want to say I like the idea that it's coming back. I do actually like the idea that the world is, that they're kind of reopening that chapter of things into that world.
Mm.
Um, the and I am curious to see what they do with it, but I'm kind of thinking that they should have brought on some of the folks that were part of the creation process for the original Greyhawk world.
The original Grey. I'll
And
agree with you on
the
that one.
ones that are still around anyway, because that was quite a long time ago.
Yes.
But yeah, yeah,
Okay,
and
so let's
I'm
see.
right there with Insomnia Night because there is a large community of people that are, you know, really more of the purist styles, and a lot of those people are like
Yeah.
Greenwood. I mean, he's still around. Um, they pretty much are, they stick in like 2E. Um, and that's no problem. I kind of look at each iteration of the game. So we're talking about taking things from, like you're mentioning about taking things from 2024. Well, what does that mean exactly? You're going to take this weapon mastery piece and you're going to adapt it to something else? Is that what you're saying? And then what would that something else be?
Fair, fair.
Each iteration of the game is in my mind its own game. That's kind
So you
of
mean
how
like
I.
each version is more of a standalone, even if it's a callback to earlier.
Right.
Um, okay. So with that in mind, then how do you feel like this? That kind of begs the question. You know, what's canon? You know, and canonical pieces, because I mean you have universal characters like Vecna that came out of second edition. You have another character who's, I think, folk not as widely known as Vecna, but who's definitely a second edition Greyhawk character, which is the character of Tasha, who's not that character's actual name, but she was a witch that came from second edition, who's now a big mainstay in the 5e version of the universe. Dark Sun would be kind of cool. I don't.
I
I've
use
seen
his
some lore
mom.
videos on.
I use his mom. Are you familiar with that character?
It kind of rings a bell, but no, remind me.
I, the life of me, I can never pronounce her name. But Ayuz does have a mother, by the way, and yeah, he is the product of a basically like a greater demon, I believe, and a witch. She's the self-proclaimed ice witch.
Interesting. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I have to look up. Can you spell that for me? Because now I'm curious. I need
Ah,
to look this character up now.
I believe
I need to look this up.
she's featured in.
Okay,
Right.
let's touch on what in what.
I'll look it up quick. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna address some of the chat. Let's see. Let's go back a little bit. Um, so Unholy Pawn says that he does like the weapon masteries, but the mechanics are a hot mess. Okay, would you elaborate on that, Unholy Pawn? Like, what do you mean by the mechanics are a mess? Like what? Dark Sun. I've in Infinity Core. I have watched a couple of videos on the Dark Sun setting. And I'm not super well versed in it, but it's definitely one of those that I'm interested in exploring. Definitely more. And yeah, canon is WotC or whoever owns the rights currently. See, I'm gonna go off on a little tangent here with that particular comment, because it's that always irked me when, and more in relation to like things like comic books and whatnot, and the canon canon S, or how, the canonical aspect of like a comic book. Um, when you have multiple different writers coming onto the scene and picking up a character and now writing a new story for it. Um, and and the reason why that's always irked me is because you have obviously different authors taking up a character and writing it, their way. And when you have a good author writing a beloved character, they've done their homework. They've read up on the character. They've basically follow a natural progression of the character's journey through multiple series. So, but then you have some folks who don't necessarily do that, but the character is considered canon. So I guess my question to you guys in regards to that piece and your question, Insomnia Night, does any author who takes up a piece of content, D&D, comic book character, do they get to claim that their character, their version of the character is canon, or is that only reserved to the person who created the character?
That's an interesting question, and
Yeah.
it can be answered the same way as what was stated earlier, and that is whoever owns the IP controls what's canon, what's not. Um,
I mean, in my mind, and this is my opinion, that's a fucking cop out.
well, you know my opinion on
uh,
all
uh,
those things. So
yeah, and here's the thing: the reason why we're sitting down and having this particular conversation, guys, is because myself and Greg and a couple of friends actually sat down last night and we had having a conversation, and even though I knew this already, but Greg finally admitted that canon means nothing to him. Greg don't give a fuck about that shit.
canon is whatever I create it as. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
No,
No.
here's the thing. You want to stick to obviously if you're playing D&D. I mean, there's D&D is just. I mean, there's so many iterations of the game. There's
Yeah.
so much stuff out there. There's so much stuff that's been created as role aids and supplemental adventures, and there's just so much that it really is hard to say what is canon, what's not. So the only way you can really do that is you got to say tag you're it. Okay, so at this point, Wizards of the Coast owns the IP, so okay, you're it. What you say is canon. Now you have people that will argue that, and there's still a lot of the original stuff that came out of TSR that's still, the IP is still held by the Gary Gygax Trust, so they still control the IP on a lot of those adventure modules and things like that.
Yeah.
So D&D is a tough one. I mean, it really is. Now, if you want to look at something a little bit more solid, and partially is how they treat their IP is why it's more solid, is the Cyberpunk universe. Because that Mike and Artel Sorian have kept a pretty tight grip on that. But it also has created a world that has a fairly solid canon to it.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I understand why from your perspective, Greg, canon means nothing to you, because at the end of the day, your table, your story, you're gonna formulate and adjust as fits the world that you're building, even if it's taking place in
Right.
Greyhawk or Forgotten Realms or in any of the established places. It's
I
still going to be your story, and I completely respect that.
I kind of look at in that sense my story. I guess you could say I kind of look at it as a version, like
Hmm.
could be an alternate universe basically.
Yeah,
That
this is my timeline of events. Set in the
exactly
same place, but my timeline, and that's fair.
exactly.
So Unholy Pawn has elaborated on their gripes with regards to the 2024 edition of 2024 version of fifth edition. I'm just gonna call it 5.5. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and call it the 2024 edition of five.
Tell us how
It's
you
just
really feel.
it's a fucking mouthful, man. Like, they just I don't know why they didn't just call it 5.5. I really don't. I just Anyway, not to get off, too much of a off the bandwagon here, but according
Tacos.
to Unholy
Yes.
Pawn,
Taco
stowing
trucks too.
weapons, yeah, yeah, taco trucks are always in my timeline. Taco trucks. Ooh, tacos would be real good right now. But according to Unholy Pawn, stowing weapons, yeah, you can stow a weapon and attack in the same turn, I believe, whereas before those actions were separate. That will make things a little bit weird. Fifth edition feats and subclasses with the new 2024 edition can be, yeah. I mean, that'll definitely make things a little bit more crunchy, a little bit. How do I put this? The power gaming is definitely going to go up a level, especially with, if you're taking the 2014 edition, old content, and you're using it with things like, the origin feats that you get in 2024 edition. Feats like tough. I mean, tough is always a good one that, gives you free 40 HP at level 20, super strong. Um, yeah, grapple has now become pretty wonky. Uh, now you can do damage while you're grappling someone, which, I mean, as you think about it, thematically. I'm holding on to someone. I'm not just gonna hold them. I'm gonna probably punch them in the face or something, or stab them if I have a weapon in my hand or whatever. So I guess it makes sense thematically, and um, from a design perspective, from a mechanical perspective, yeah, that's gonna cause some problems.
And to hold
Um,
him and hug him and love him and name him George.
essentially that. That's pretty much what's going to freaking happen, and it has happened. And you've seen plenty of people already making these builds that are pretty wild.
Mhm.
Um, that's why I always adhere to the number one rule at any table: the GM has the last word.
Well, and that's, you see, that's where I personally, I think it should have stayed there. I don't okay, creating that ability for people to play in God mode all the time is a little disappointing to me.
Oh,
Now there's some players that's, we've and video games are part of the reason for this, but I mean, we've gotten into this min max mode where we want to create, the ultimate character. Whatever
yeah.
is
We want
coming
to
out
be
of
able
our
to
head,
do.
it has to be the ultimate thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I have to be able to
yeah. We
kick
want.
everything's ass on the battlefield, or I'm not happy.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, oh yeah. It's the power fantasy, and
David and
and
Goliath, and
again,
we're all David.
not knocking anybody's yum. If that's your thing, that's your thing. Go have fun. But and Ollie Pond did touch on something that I was actually going to get to in a minute. Uh, the 2024 edition may lead to a lot of DM versus PC debates. I
Mm-hmm.
agree with that. Not that that wasn't a thing already, because you do have some players and PCs.
When you
Sorry,
have some,
some player characters and some players and some DMs who are at
there's a
odds
lot of
already.
there's a lot of DMs out there that run games that way. It's me against all of you kind of thing.
Yeah,
And I mean,
which goes counter to, I mean, everything we've been discussing is that storytelling process. It's the crafting story. That's that is at the heart of, I feel, of any of the games that we've mentioned, that we've played. You have folks who created that, who, again, that was a collaborative effort there, from a narrative team, from a design team, the play testers, to bring us these games. And we'll stay on the TTRPG side of things, and then for some reason, don't know why, when it gets in the hands of like a DM, and not every DM, and players, instead of collaboratively telling a story, it's, well, the DM versus the players, which is an odd phenomenon that has been going on for decades. For decades, and and the thing is, there've been people who've sat down and done studies on this shit. Still here. It's still here, and I don't know. Hopefully I'm not that kind of DM. Hopefully I don't know. Well, Greg, you sit at my table. What do you think?
no comment.
Wow. Okay. does not
You're
expire
gonna open yourself
confidence.
up to that, man. I'm gonna definitely just jump all over it.
Okay, all right, all right. Well,
No,
I've DM'd
no,
for
no.
Unholy
We
Pawn.
we well, and we promote though. I mean, we promote that atmosphere of you
Yeah,
know of the engagement of the players. That's really if you're it's there's a totally different way of doing this rather than being the DM that's looking at this as I have to craft this story and then I have to tell the story and my players are just playing my story. That's one way of doing it, and the problem is any game that's ran that way will not last very long. And I think most
mm,
DMs have probably experienced that, where you just can't you can't hold on to players. The ones who get to do what they want and play in God mode most of the time are the ones who are going to hang on. Um, and in order to engage your players, you have to be collaborative in the storytelling. I mean, they have to be telling the story of their character, not you telling them. You know what I mean? That
mm.
what's happening to their player agency. Look at it that way. I mean, they've it's their character. They've got to have some ownership in what's going on with that character. Now it doesn't mean
Very true.
that any little thing that comes out of their head is just they still have to play the character as it is, not as their headcanon is telling them. But they should be the one telling that story. I mean, I that's how I
Yeah.
look at it. How I look at it with running games is very simply, I just build a structure. I just build a framework, and then I play all the extras in that framework. And the people who are actually telling the story are my players. They're the ones telling the
Oh,
story, not
absolutely.
me.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
just fill the gaps. I provide the conflict for them. I provide the little extras, the interactions,
Mhm.
whatever they you want to do. And I occasionally get to beat them up. I mean, it's fun.
Yep. All right, so we got a couple of comments from the chat. So Baptized says, "Okay, so question for you guys. Our last DM wanted to do a one-shot high-level game. He wanted us to make level 15 characters on Roll20. We did. He looked at them, told me my character had too many hit points, and dropped it by 60 points.
Ooh, ooh.
That's quite a significant hit to your HP. Can you tell me how many hit points you had, if you can remember?" Because I mean, number one, that question is a little bit going to need a little bit more detail on that. Number one, because it could be, you can have the tough feat, which gives you two extra HP, um, up to a max of 40 at level 20, just free. You just get it. On top of what you normally get, you can have magical items. You would have abilities that might give you some extra HP. Um, but none are coming to mind. But let's see. And Foxy says, I think it depends on what type of person wants to be a DM. Are you someone
Right.
who wants to collaboratively tell a story, or do you want to play God? And yeah, unfortunately, you have folks on both sides of that line. But there
most
is one.
most
Go ahead.
people
Go ahead.
well most people start out, and I mean I'm guilty too. I mean, most people start out with the I that play God mentality when it comes to DMing, and it's sad, but that's where most people start out. Is they truly believe that they have to tell the engaging story, and the problem with that is if you sit down at a table with people to play a game and you're the one who's supposed to be moderating the game, okay, whether that's game master, DM, doesn't matter what you're called or what you call yourself, you're moderating the game, and you're the one who does most of the talking, like 50% or more. You're not really playing a game. You're just telling these people a story.
Yeah, and so going back to Baptize's question, that is very weird, especially if you're only sitting at 170 at level 15. That's not unusual at all. And depending on what your character class was, yeah, that might be even be on the low end. Um, and unfortunately, DMs like players are, like the player characters are people, and sometimes You get some folks who being in the DM seat is their first experience at being able to control the situation. And again, not trying to throw shade at anybody, not trying to call anybody out, but you get to sit in the DM seat, you get to control a situation, and you don't act in good faith, whether knowingly or
Right.
unknowingly. It happens. Um, Hopefully that person learned. You know, oh yeah, exactly. Unholy pawn. If you force a story that you want as a DM, you're not making it fun for anybody.
Right.
It's not, because your job as a DM is to really sit there and, as Greg said, craft the structure, craft the world, the NPCs, and the encounter. You give. I mean, he and I have had multiple conversations. We as DMs, in our philosophy, and we share this philosophy. Our job is to craft the world, potentially craft an overarching story, with a beginning, middle, and end. But and that's like 20% of everything. But the other 80%, that's populated by the players and their actions, or lack of action.
Right.
They drive the story. Um, and yeah, that's how, I mean, at least for myself and Greg, and it sounds like Unholy Pawn and most of the chat, like that's how they would like to play a game.
The benefit
Um,
of being the moderator is that if you have beats in the story that you want to hit, okay, and if you're crafting a story in that sense, if you have beats in the story that you want to hit, you literally can let your players do whatever they want to do because you always
yeah.
have the ability to pull them back into that beat or just adjust, just make course corrections along the way.
Oh
um
yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I was just about to get to that. Yeah. Like,
yes,
the
yes.
reason why it's best to keep that kind of 80-20, at least, ratio, in my opinion, is because, like, exactly what you said, Raz. You can, as a DM, I set the pace of where you're gonna hit the next, story beat.
Hmm.
I could put it anywhere. Literally, you could be out shopping, open the next door, boom, you're in a fight. Extra dimensional doors exist in D&D. Like, I can put it anywhere I want to. But what is more meaningful for players, and I mean, not just us, not just myself and Raz, but multiple DMs that we've talked to, over the course of the show, and personally, what's most fun for players is, again, having that agency.
Hmm.
And here's the thing, it's not just in tabletop. We're seeing it in video games as well. I mean, you have, when games really first kicked off in the 80s, you had very much on rails games. You went from one stage to the other stage to a next stage,
Yep.
and you progressed. Now, open world has become the norm. It's the new norm. Most games nowadays are open world to a greater or lesser degree, and the player has more agency on where they go in the world. In some cases, how they attack the story. I mean, we'll use Fallout for example. 3, Fallout 4, Fallout 76. There are stories. There's stories there. There's a
Lots of
a
stories.
linear yeah. There's a linear progression to the main story. Skyrim, but
Mhm.
you can hit any of the games that I mentioned: Skyrim, Fallout. What else? You know, um,
I think
Ghost of Tsushima.
right, most of the
You can
games that
hit
are
those
coming out,
games
most of the games that
in
are
any
coming out
order.
now don't have that linear progression.
Oh,
It's
you can
pretty
go
open.
anywhere.
Yep. You can follow the main story if that's what you want to do. If your goal is to beat the game, yeah, you can just run through and go back later and catch all the side story stuff that's in there.
Hmm.
But you can just that freedom to the obvious way is to go right, but I am going to go left just because that's me. I
Because why not? I haven't
exactly.
gone left yet.
I want to see what's over there. I don't want to see what's over there.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure I know what's over
Yeah.
there, so I want to see what's over here.
And which is interesting to me as I'm sitting here thinking about it. And to answer your question, Insomnia, and what about Fallout 1 or 2? Yeah, yeah, Fallout 1 or 2 definitely. They had the same. They didn't have linear stories. They had, I think, Fallout 1 and 2. And here's the thing: I haven't played either of them personally. I do have them, but I've seen Let's Plays of them. I think they're the first, or among the first games where you really had an open
I'm
world
just gonna let him go for a while
feel
now,
to it.
Insomnia, just because you did that.
Nah, shh. I yeah, I tend to ramble. But one of the things that that's kind of occurred to me as I'm sitting here is kind of the juxtaposition, because you had obviously, worlds like, Lord of the Rings, and then games like D&D and Chainmail, and the TTRPGs were the catalyst for video games as we know it. Yet it just occurred to me, TTRPG started out open world. Video games started out linear. I'm starting to wonder why that is. And again, just a random thought. Like, why, when you had the example of what an open world example of what a game is, obviously in a TTRPG medium, you you put it linearly in a video game.
Well, it's probably just a lot to do with the way it's. I mean, the coding piece to it. Because I
Yeah,
remember.
then that's like, I'm thinking about it as I'm
Yeah.
saying it, and I'm like, it's probably a limitation on um, uh, design principles, you know, uh, hardware, software at the time.
Right. They,
So
you think when back in, okay, like 70s, 80s, all the way up into the early 90s. I mean, the programming language was pretty much DOS,
yeah,
and
yeah, and literally you had like, what was it? Was it like 64 kilobytes, of RAM? Was like
that was high
the
end, man.
most.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's high end. Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. But it's just something, again, I wanted to talk about, because it's just, again, it's an interesting progression, because it feels like it's come full circle. We went
Yeah,
we went
you're right,
from
Infinity.
linear progression to in video game. We went from open world and TTRPGs, linear progression in video games. Now it seems like everything is caught up, and we've come full circle back to now open world, just in a video game, which kind of begs the question. Maybe, and it kind of sticks in my throat to say this, but maybe there is a grain, a mustard seed of merit to WotC going digital and making VTTs, making their own VTT. Maybe there is some merit to it. Maybe. I can't believe I said that.
An unholy pawn aggravated the Streamlabs god. It looks like. Sorry about that, buddy.
Oh, okay. Let's see what we got here. And welcome in, Brand. Welcome in. Didn't see you there, buddy. Let's see. Let's scroll back. Let's go back here. We've missed a couple things.
Yeah, I know you are. You are a Foundry guy for sure, Insomnia. I personally,
Yeah.
I use Roll20 for VTT, and predominantly I do that because most of my games are theater of the mind. But I do like having, for personal games, I do like having the map capability there. Um, and otherwise, it's just the library piece for Rolls 20.
Mm. All right. Let's see. Da-da-da-da. Uh, so Baptize is just touching on an incident with their DM.
Welcome back.
Uh, yeah, that is definitely weird. Baptize. I'm glad you exited that group. That was not cool. Yeah. Let's see. Let's see. We have. You're never leaving Foundry and Insomnia Night. See, I've played on Foundry before, and I gotta say, comparing that to Roll 20, Foundry is better in some respects. Foundry is better, but I think, and I could be wrong on this, and you can feel free to correct me if I am wrong, Insomnia Night. I think Roll 20 has a bigger catalog of games.
Well, Roll20 has a shared catalog because of the relationship with drive-through.
Yeah, and again, that's what I was gonna say. Drive-through RPG has a they're directly linked. I
Right.
do know you can take a lot of drive-through stuff and put it on Foundry, but there's a couple more hoops to jump to. Whereas again, the integration between drive-through and Roll20 is pretty seamless. Oh, they do. I did not know that. When did that happen? So again, Insomnia Night says apparently Foundry has a partnership with Wizards of the Coast. So it might be
That
a
doesn't
lot easier
surprise
to
me.
get. Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. That and Free League. Oh, okay, Foundry.
No, no, Foundry isn't actually
Um,
under WotC yet.
oh, they just got that this year. Okay. Unholy Font. Look, man, look. Yeah, we've knocked on Watsy a bit here, and during the course of our
Trust,
show,
trust me, Insomnia. If you've seen my catalog in Roll20, you'd use the Roll20 if you were me.
yeah, Raz has an extremely large catalog. So let's scroll back a little bit. So Foxy said that they started a campaign and played a couple sessions with someone who was very controlling, stepped out of that game because they knew that that's not how D&D was. Yeah, that's not how D&D is supposed to go. In my opinion, again, everybody's gonna agree to disagree. But yeah, it's a collaborative storytelling process that everybody should have a voice in. Here's the way I always put it. I will take your input as a DM. Doesn't mean I'm gonna use it, but I'll listen to you. I'll listen to you. Doesn't mean I'm gonna use it. I might not even use it right then and there. I might use it later on. But you have
You will be
just as
heard.
much of a voice. Exactly, you will be heard. Yeah, your voice will be listened. We'll be heard, not necessarily listened.
Yeah, I can I feel your pain there, baptized. That's I have a monster catalog of games and just assets in
Mm.
Roll20. So
But
I'll
getting
be
getting back, go ahead. Go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say I'll be using Roll20 for. Matter of fact, I actually have been looking at the possibility of just becoming an ambassador for Roll20. So we'll see. Maybe.
I mean, yeah, that would be a smart move.
Then
Um,
Insomnia could really razz me about Foundry. See?
yep. But apparently, WotC has been listening to DMs, to players, to their community because one of the things that they are putting in the new DMG coming out next month is, obviously the whole argument of the rule of cool or raw or rules as written, for the layman. One of the things that they've kind of integrated into the 2024 edition of the DMG is,
Right.
you know making sure that newer DMs and even veteran DMs are reminded that they're the DM. They're in the driver's seat of their game, so they can ignore or use any rule that they want at any point in time. And I mean, I not that goes without saying, but yeah, I think that's a really good thing, and I think that's something that should be made known to everyone. It should be made known, readily known, especially to new DMs. Because I remember when I started DMing, um, you know, this is what 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 years ago. I took the DMG as gospel. I took I read all the rules and made sure that I was following it because that I figured let me do it that way. That way I can understand how it's supposed to go before I start making changes. Because again, I at that point I had been playing, D&D for over 20 years, so I knew about home brewing and adjusting rules and stuff like that, but I'd never done it as a DM. So, but that's just
I'm
my
I'm
story.
I'm I'm still breaking him of running modules.
He is. I'm getting there. Okay, I'm getting there. Right. I'm perfecting my storytelling chops. And hey, I've gone off script even in the module. Thank you very much. I've roped in some homebrew on the fly quests there for y'all.
Yep.
So let's see.
We
Uh, go ahead,
we
go ahead, Greg.
well we still have some conversation about the mission kit to talk
We
about.
do,
So we
yeah.
have
The Edge
some
Runners,
cyberpunk talk to get to as well.
yeah, yeah. So Edge Runners mission kit. Going on to another, um, really
Yeah,
good
Rob
system.
does a good job. Don't don't let me make it sound different. He does a good job.
Greg just likes to give me shit. But yeah, moving on to the Edge Runners mission kit. Seems like unironically and
Okay.
with no surprise there, most folks in this current day, in this current day and age, have been introduced to the cyberpunk universe. And by cyberpunk universe, I mean Artal Saurian's universe, because cyberpunk it's larger than just that.
I know, right?
Yeah, Greg giving someone shit that never happens. um,
I'm sweet and innocent.
I'm just gonna take a sip of my water. Hold on.
um, I try. I
Okay,
try
Greg.
not to give people shit. How about
Whatever
that?
helps you sleep at night, man.
Okay.
But yeah, so yeah, the Edge Runners mission kit has basically really bridged the gap between the TTRPG and the video game, which unironically is what most people know as, that's their first foray into the world of cyberpunk, a la Artel Saurian, is through the 2077 game. And I'm glad that, I mean, honestly, the writing was on the wall. They were going to come out with something to bridge the gap between Cyberpunk Red and the 2077 game. And to be fair, the mission kit, which we've done a review on, we actually did a pretty in-depth review on the 2077 mission kit. You can find that in our catalog, both here on Twitch and on YouTube. Was they did a really good job. Art Soren did a fantastic job of bridging the gap between 2045, which Cyberpunk Red, which is take place in
Mm-hmm.
2045, and 2077, the video game, especially in the area of net running and quick hacks and all that stuff. So they did a fantastic job, but they
Good to
went a
see you as
step
well,
further.
Baptist. Thank you for stopping in, buddy.
Yeah, man, good to see you, buddy. They went a step further, and they even roped in the anime. So for those of you who haven't watched the anime, please go check it out. Really good. Um, and this is what we mean by really good storytelling, because both the game, the anime, and the lore of Cyberpunk, really good storytelling. Um,
And there's more
all
to
the
come.
characters, and there's more to come. Yeah, all the characters and set the setting of Night City, and I mean the setting overall. If you've ever read the core rulebook, they go into it. They supply you with plenty of information and lore and happenings, characters, to really understand the world of Cyberpunk. Um, and I mean, for me, the reason why I personally love it is it's an alternate timeline of the world that we live in that could have very easily have happened, in my
Yes,
opinion.
I would say yes is the answer to that unholy pun.
In my, would you say BG3 effect on D&D 24 is mirrored by Cyberpunk 2? Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I don't honestly, in my opinion, that's, and again, I'm not saying people have said this is a bad thing. I'm gonna say it's not a bad thing. I think it's a fantastic thing. Because again, a lot of the medium that folks are getting into in games are through video games, be it on console or PC. So to have a TTRPG be made into a video game, but being able to bridge that gap to introduce folks to the wider world of, you know, some mainstays in the TTRPG community, absolutely fantastic.
In an odd
Because
sort of way, and I hate to put it quite this way, but in an odd way, video games have become kind of like a I'm just like a gateway drug to TTRPGs.
you're not wrong,
Um,
yeah.
and because the video game itself can only do so much right now.
Mm.
Where
Yeah,
once
especially in
you've
the storytelling piece.
Right. So once you've played through the game a couple of times, you've got to find ways to motivate yourself. You got to create your own story within the limitations of that video game, and you get to a point where you can only hear "I used to be an adventurer until I got an arrow in my knee" so many times before it's like, hey guy, if you don't have
Yeah,
anything good to say, get
I,
out of here. Um,
yeah, that's what I do. We've heard that how many times? Yep.
So that's where TTR, that's where tabletop comes in, because now the world is completely wide open to anything, wherever you want to
Mm.
go, however far you want to go, and you can always create new things to go into that. And the content's not always going to be the same because it's not controlled by an algorithm. It's not just cycling through the same old messages. It's real people telling real story together at the table. And that's almost like an evolution from video games to that. Now we'll see what the impact of AI ends up being down the road, but right now
Yeah,
definitely it's working
yeah.
that way.
I am excited also to see the impact on AI um, when it gets to a point where it's properly utilized. You know, and I mean, and again, I say properly utilized. Obviously, multiple factors will determine what that means,
Hmm.
what that looks like. So, I'm not gonna weigh in on what that looks like because I don't really know. I don't really know. I mean, we can always use Ready Player One as an example, but that's that honestly that level of interactivity I think is further off than people would like to admit. Not so far off as also people would like to think. But I mean, I don't think we're all going to be jumping into VR, full body suits, anytime soon. At least I'm not. Anytime soon. But maybe one day. But yeah, I think again, the whole piece is to broaden that storytelling process. And to be fair, though, video games are starting to meet TTRPGs in that respect
We
by
do.
broadening the storytelling ability in the way of mods. I mean, look at Baldur's Gate 3, and you can even motion to Cyberpunk 2077. The modding community really very much, they've done that for many games over the
Hmm.
years, but the modding community in video games have been very strong in allowing players to change up the face of the game. I mean, to in some cases to extreme degrees where you're not even playing the same game. In the space of Baldur's Gate 3, for example, Larian Studios. I'm trying to remember because I know we did a segment on that. They haven't officially allowed um, like modding tools to a GM level in Baldur's Gate 3. Now, if you go back to their earlier stuff, which is Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2, they have a whole suite, like a whole integrated suite of game dev stuff that you can create entire campaigns, like an entirely new campaign. So I feel like the want and the interest to tell stories
Unofficially,
in,
yes, it is.
yeah, yeah, well, yeah, unofficially, Free Brand it is. What I mean by mod support, I'm talking at the GM level, meaning you can take the entire game and craft a whole new campaign in it. That I'm pretty sure is not officially supported. And obviously you can download some mods that allow you to do that, but that comes with risks. Now again, that's in BG3. Now if you go back to Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2, Larian Studios in those games, because those are their games, they like mod support to the GM level is that's already there. That's integrated fully. Think if you ever played Neverwinter Nights 2 and how I mean that's another game that has been kept alive because of the storytelling prowess of their modding community. Again, tabletop meets video game, and this you get games like that have entire campaigns that players have created for the community to enjoy. So that want of storytelling is strong. I mean,
Mhm.
it's no surprise. Just look at human history. We started out our civilizations with telling stories, verbally, and otherwise. So everyone's a storyteller at heart, I think.
They should be.
Yeah, I think so. I think you
That's
really should be.
that's my great joy in all of this is just telling great story and being able to share that experience with groups of people, um and have just sharing that creativity with everybody at the table. That way it's not just one person telling a story, it's the whole team adding a piece, you know what I mean, their piece to the story. um and I think that makes really great story. And we've been fortunate with the groups that we've had,
Mhm.
both here on stream, in our private groups. And I have to say, at GaryCon this last year, um, every table of people I had, they were fantastic, and they really enjoyed and got into the idea that this isn't, you're not coming to sit here and play a board game. I'm not going to just spoon feed everything to you and you just react to what I'm saying. I want you to tell a story. I want you to tell,
Mhm.
what is your character doing? What are you doing? So, and people eat
Yeah.
that up. And I had some really interesting things happen. Some really players who decided to really do some crazy stuff. So it's fantastic.
And it always surprises me at at the level of shock that I've come across from players when I take the same approach. I'm like, yeah, okay, well, tell your character story. What are they doing? It feels like almost like they don't know what to do. Like they've never been given permission before to
Nobody
tell
nobody ever handed them
tell a
the reins
story.
before.
Yeah, yeah, it's surprising because I don't know. It could be again. Maybe well, we're getting into other topics of maybe as an adult you lose that storytelling capability because it's been hammered out of you by life. you know can't tell stories anymore because you got older, so you forget, you've forgotten how to. When we're kids we're always telling stories. um, so it could be that. It could, I don't know, it could be a number of things. The other One of the other things that kind of comes to mind is maybe games, even the open world games. You're living a story, you're experiencing a
Mhm.
story. um,
Right.
you're so maybe folks need to rekindle that storytelling muscle. um, Play more TTRPGs, basically what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Play more D&D. Play more D&D, play more Aliens, play more Symbrom, play more, Cyberpunk, play more TTRPGs. I'm not saying stop playing video games though, because video games are getting a lot better at really allowing you to tell a story. But unfortunately, there are limitations there that don't exist in TTRPGs. Um, there's only but so many options that you can code in a game to walk down X branching path. Um, but I think with AI and where that's going, I think we're going to see another gaming renaissance here soon. Um,
Used as
and
a
I'm excited for.
used as a tool for
So,
sure. Take
oh
a
yeah, yeah,
and one of the so a couple of the people that we've worked with, one of those individuals, yeah, no to the AI GMs. I'm just no.
yeah. No,
Um,
that's where I draw the line on Holy Pawn. That's where I draw the line. No, no AI GMs, please.
but
Like,
we've worked a bit with like Twain Martin,
mm,
and Upheaval AI, Upheaval Games,
yeah,
and kind of building a relationship with them, and we've gotten an opportunity to look at the products that they're developing, and in
yeah,
essence the future of AI, and
yeah.
it's
Of what it could
really,
potentially be. Yeah.
yeah, it's really impressive. I mean, it's
Mm,
phenomenal. um and just because you brought it up on Holy Pond, when it comes to this AI DM, um I'm sure that's going to happen, but the thing about that is right now, it for the people who want to be a DM, for the people who want to really be able to help craft a story, um and there's really not a lot of those people that are out there. Most people want to play. They don't really want to have to be the guy on the other side of the table who's building that metrics of things and playing all the NPCs, and
mm.
the guy who gets to die all the time, we'll put it that way. um
Yeah, y'all always
so
killing me.
so don't let that just become an AI function where the AI does that and we're all just players, because I think it's important that we continue to flex that creativity muscle and continue to tell and create good story. um that's I encourage people to try, be a player, sure, but try to be a DM, try to run a game.
Yeah. It's
um
it's it's not as intimidating as you think. It's really not.
especially if it's in a story that you enjoy anyway, in a universe that you enjoy anyway. The
Mm.
caveat to it is, yes, I encourage you to run a game, try and run a game. I'm also going to say, don't be a dick.
Yeah, don't be a dick. That's two simple rules right there. Play a game, don't be a dick. And here's the thing, on Holy Pond, my 2 cents on the whole AI DM piece. Like Greg, I do think it's gonna happen. Like there's really the writing's on the wall, it's gonna happen. What I hope they do is remember those old school choose your own adventure books back in the day?
Oh yeah.
I hope they take that route. I think if they take that route and they do that properly, they'll have something. It will be limited in the ways that video games are limited, in that you can only put so many avenues of progression, like story avenues in a in that box, so to speak, where an AI DM, as it stands now, can adjust for. Whereas a human DM, we can adjust on the fly. But an AI DM, they fall back to the level of the parameters that they're given.
Welcome back, Insomnia.
Yeah, welcome back, buddy. They fall back to the level of the programming that they were given. So they've got limited space. Now, as AIs and all that stuff becomes more advanced, you know, we'll see how that goes. to DM and be players. That's interesting.
So what are you gonna do, Insomnia? Just sit back and
Are
watch
you just
them
gonna
play?
watch? Yeah, you gonna watch? Oh, okay. Well, shit. Keep us posted. I would like to. I'd like to grab a bag of popcorn and watch that. Insomnia Night's making his own TV show. That's what he's wanting to do. That's actually going to be another interesting aspect. What happens when AI hits TVs and movies?
Mm-hmm.
Going to be another interesting little piece there. I'm wondering. Let's see what Unholy Pond said. The thing, there's so much lore out there, you could feed it all into a database. The AI could access it all. Could be interesting. Yeah, and that's what I mean on Holy Pond. Like the AIs that we have now will only go so far as to the information that they're fed, and there is a lot of lore out there for take D&D for example. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Oh yeah, I've seen that. Presidential like I've seen it on TikTok where they do like or even YouTube actually. I've seen a couple
Yeah,
AI
the voiceover
generated
pieces.
generated videos on YouTube where it's Obama, it's Trump and
George, you.
Biden and George W and Clinton all
Mhm.
playing D&D games. It was pretty fucking funny. I ain't gonna lie. It was pretty fucking funny. So hey, maybe there might be something to that Insomnia Night. Might be something to that. We'll see. Um, but one last piece before we start signing off here. Speaking of story, anyone here ever read the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett? Sir Terry Pratchett, excuse me.
Discord.
Discworld, yeah, Discworld series, man. They are actually coming out with it's by Modifius. They're coming out with a Kickstarter that has already launched. I think it has like 20 something days left. Go back it, go back it, and as a matter of fact, go read the stories. Terry Pratchett is another one of those, not as old as Tolkien, obviously, but he's one of those guys that was back in the 80s and 90s that absolutely fantastic story. Take D&D and smash it together with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and you got Discworld. Absolutely awesome story, characters. The fact that they're coming out with a TTRPG for it, I'm excited. Another Modifius TTRPG that I didn't know that they had, for those who are fans of Dishonored, there's a TTRPG for that. Go fucking play it.
It's like pills, man. There's a TTRPG for that. Whatever it
Seriously.
is that you have.
Sir, whatever your fixation is, there's a TTRPG for it. Geez, I think they're gonna have to start getting what is it? What is it? It's not AA. That's Alcoholics Anonymous. Yeah, the TTRPG Anonymous for fucking addicts.
That's for quitters.
Oh man. But yeah, guys, that about wraps up our discussion for today. Wait, is that the
Yes.
flat world on the four? Yes, that is. That is Discworld. Yep, on the space turtle. Yep, yep.
If
Go check it out, man.
if you are not already following the channel, please do give us a follow, show us a little support, and join the Discord. There's a little thing that keeps popping up in the chat that tells you how to do that. If you join the Discord, you can kind of stay ahead of the things going on for us. Plus, we like to introduce some new and upcoming games, different information in there. Might have an opportunity to speak with some of the artists that we speak with as well.
Yep, and interact with some of the creators. One of them, being Twain Martin, he's in our Discord, and a couple of other folks from Free League, and some artists and creators that we've had on the update log in the
Thomas
past.
Herenstam is in our
Yep,
Discord.
yep. So
Dias.
yeah, go ahead and join our Discord. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube, go all the links are in the chat. Oh yeah,
Yes.
Harper is exactly right. She's one of the moderators for the Discord channel.
All three
OnlyFans,
OnlyFans. You weren't supposed to talk
all,
about that, Insomnia.
OnlyFans is still a work in progress. I'm
I
kidding. It's
can't
not.
imagine.
It's not at all. It's not even a thought. Only Greg's. Only Greg's. Yeah. But yeah. So yes, if you do join our Discord, there are channels where we can continue the topic of discussion or even start new ones. So
Absolutely. And within probably another month here, we are going to be introducing a straight to video, so it won't be on Twitch, but it will be a video series based in the world of Symborum.
yep.
Um, that's coming up. We
Yeah.
also have some, we're going to be doing an interview with the creators of Aliens 2, the second edition of the Alien game. That'll be coming up here pretty soon. Um, and
Oh, that's gonna be exciting.
all kinds of things, it's just kind of
That
whatever
game was
pops into the little noggin, and let's do it.
for those of you who've never played the Alien RPG. It's as brutal as you can imagine. Go play it. It's by Free League Press. They have an awesome catalog of games. Go check them out.
The thing about that is it doesn't have to be brutal. That's the thing. Is, I mean, there's a whole universe out there created for aliens that you could play in, that you don't have
I
to.
mean, if you're playing an alien game and you don't run into an alien, is it really an alien game?
Well, yeah, but you could always run away. I mean.
We tried to. That didn't do much good.
I didn't have anything to do with
Yeah, I call bullshit on that one.
that. It was fun though. The alien system is a hell of a lot of fun. Yes, and xenomorphs are badass. So yeah, be very very careful.
Yeah,
All right, is that it for tonight?
all right, guys. Yeah, that's it. That sums up our episode 71. Thank you guys for tuning in, chat. We really appreciate you guys engaging with us and kind of telling us your favorite RPGs and kind of chiming in on that because that's what we're here for. Right? We're here to get y'all's feedback and give you our opinion, get your opinion, and talk about the things that really drive us in this particular space, which is for myself and Greg, storytelling. But storytelling applies to so many different things. But with that said, that is episode 71 of the Update Log. I'm Rob, your host, and this is Greg, my co-host. And we'll see you guys next week.
And
Same time, same place.
I think we're going to jump. I seen that Stormy is on, so I think I'm going to jump over and see what he is up to tonight. So,
Oh, Stormy D, another
Stormy
fantastic
D,
individual.
you bet. All right. So hang out for a little bit, get yourself some extra points and all that good stuff, and go show Stormy some love if you're not already following him. He is another great streamer, has a nice community built around him, really great people. So thank you very much for being here tonight, and we look forward to seeing you in the future.
Adios, guys.
I suck at these reds. I
He does. He really does.
get the
Eventually,
timing
Greg
down on
will.
reds.